Chapter 83. Jonah historically regarded. Reference is made to the historical story of Jonah and the whale in the preceding chapter. Now some Nantucketers rather distrust this historical story of Jonah and the whale. But then there were some skeptical Greeks and Romans who, standing out of the orthodox pagans of their times, equally doubted that the story of Hercules and the whale and Arion and the dolphin, and yet their doubting these traditions did not make those traditions one whit less facts for all of that. One old Sag Harbor whalesman chief reason for questioning the Hebrew story was this. He had one of those quaint old-fashioned Bibles embellished with curious, unscientific plates, one of which represented Jonah's whale with two spouts in his head, a peculiarity, one true, with respect to a species of the Leviathan, the right whale, and the varieties of that order. Concerning which fishermen have this saying, a penny roll would choke him. His swallow is so very small. But to this, Bishop Jebb's anticipative answer is ready. It is not necessary, hints the bishop, that we consider Jonah as tombed in the whale's belly, but as temporarily lodged in the belly, in some part of his mouth or throat. And this seems reasonable enough, given in the good bishop, for truly the right whale's mouth would accommodate a couple of whist tables and comfortably seat all of the players of the narrative. Possibly, too, Jonah might himself have ensconced himself in a hollow tooth, but on second thought, the right whale is toothless. Another reason with Sag Harbor, we went by that name, urged for this want of faith in the matter of the prophet, was something obscurely in reference to his incarcerated body and the whale's gastric juices. But this objection likewise falls to the ground because a German exegetist supposes that Jonah would have taken refuge in the floating body of a dead whale. But even as the French soldiers in the Russian campaign turned their dead horses into tents and crawled into them, besides that, it has been divined by some other continental commentators that when Jonah was thrown overboard from the Joppa ship, he straightway effected his escape to another vessel nearby, some vessel with a whale for a figurehead, and I would add possibly called the whale, as some craft are nowadays christened the shark or the gull or the eagle. Nor have there been wanting any learned exegetists who have opined that the whale mentioned in the book of Jonah merely meant a life preserver, an inflated bag of wind, which the endangered prophet swam to, and so was saved from a watery doom. Very watery. Poor Sag Harbor, therefore, seems worsted all around. But he had still another reason for his want of faith. If was this, and if I remember right, Jonah was swallowed by the whale in the Mediterranean Sea, and after 3 days he was vomited up somewhere within 3 days' journey of Nineveh, a city on the Tigris, very much more than 3 days' journey across from the nearest point of the Mediterranean coast. And how is that? But was there no other way for the whale to land that the prophet within that distance short of Nineveh? Yes. He might have carried him round the way of the Cape of Good Hope, but not to speak of the passage through the whole length of the Mediterranean and another passage up the Persian Gulf and the Red Sea. Such a supposition would involve the complete circumnavigation of all of Africa in 3 days, not to mention of the Tigris waters near the site of Nineveh, being too shallow for any whale to swim in. Besides, this idea of Jonah's weathering of the Cape of Good Hope at so early a day would wrest the honor of the discovery of that great headland from Bartholomew Diaz, its reputed discoverer, and so make modern history a liar. But all these foolish arguments of old Sag Harbor only evinced his foolish pride of reason, a thing still more reprehensible in him, seeing that he had but little leaning except for what he had picked up from the sun and the sea. I only say this shows his foolish, impious pride and abominable, devilish rebellion against a reverend clergy. But for a Portuguese Catholic priest, this very idea of Jonah's going to Nineveh via the Cape of Good Hope was advanced as a signal magnification of a general miracle. And so it was. Besides, to this day, the highly enlightened Turks devoutly believed in the historical story of Jonah. And some 3 centuries ago, an English traveler in the old Harris's Voyages speaks of a Turkish mosque built in honor of Jonah, in which mosque was a miraculous lamp that burnt without any oil.